I'm Don Pratt, host of a show here on Rogers TV where we give you a perspective of police in your community. Welcome to Policing York Region. RIDE, Reducing Impaired Driving Everywhere. Staff Sergeant Sarah Riddell, thanks so much for being on the show.
My pleasure, Don.
Yeah, it's always a hot topic. I know, I don't want to date the show, but going into the holiday season.
Yeah, so we do enhance our ride during the holiday season. We call it our festive ride.
Yeah.
Typically, we launch the end of November, and we'll run right through to the first week of January.
Yeah.
That is, again, the festive ride, and we do that in partnership with MAD and their Red Ribbon campaign. Yes. So the Red Ribbon campaign runs at the same time, so we partner with MAD York Region to do our launch at the end of November.
They're an amazing organization.
They really are, and we're very fortunate to work as closely with them as we do.
Yeah, we had an opportunity a couple of years ago actually to have them on the show. And
Wonderful.
It was a lot of insight. A lot of insight.
And so dedicated, right? And,
they are.
And every volunteer that is working with MAD York Region has been impacted one way or another by impaired driving. And you can see the passion. You really can.
You hit a key word. They are all volunteers.
Yes, they are.
That is a volunteer organization.
It is.
And it's unfortunate that the majority of those members, as you said, they're there as a result of a catastrophe that's happened to them, their families, a loved one.
Yes. Yeah, unfortunately. And it does. It happens all too often on our roads. As you know, in York Region, impaired driving and the enforcement of impaired driving is one of our main priorities, especially for us in the Road Safety Bureau, obviously.
Yeah.
And so, we were talking a little earlier about how many arrests, how many charges there were last year. So in 2018, we had 1,454 people charged or with impaired-related charges, right? And that includes people who refuse, that includes people who have care and control, people who are over 80, people who are impaired. So it's unfortunate that each one of those incidences, is a potential for catastrophe, like you just said.
Yeah, no, and I hear it all too often, both from yourself and from the executive command level, too. That, why aren't people getting the message? Nobody has that answer.
No, and it's hard to understand. And I think a lot of people just aren't aware of their limits. I think that's part of it, right? That people aren't aware of their limits. And we're seeing a lot of next day people getting stopped in the morning. So, you're drinking. Yeah, so you're drinking, you're having a good time. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. Your BAC is high. You're impaired. So you decide you're going to... Blood alcohol content. Concentration, yeah. So you need a couple of hours sleep or a coffee or you do what you need to do and then you think you're sober, but you're not. I mean, it takes a long time for your body to eliminate the alcohol. So we find a lot of people are driving still impaired between 5 a.m. and 10 a.m. the next day. So that's an education piece.
That's terrible.
That's an education piece. So, a couple hours sleep is not enough to sober you up.
No.
And that's the message that we need to get to people as well. And oftentimes, people feel they've done the right thing by crashing for a couple hours and trying to sober up, but it's not enough.
No, your body does need a certain amount of time to let things work through its system. And I have seen or heard of that too. Like don't rely on coffee. Don't think that having a sandwich to soak it up.
No, it's a standard, and that's right. It's a standard rate of time to eliminate the alcohol content, regardless of whether or not you've had a coffee, a nap, a shower, a sandwich. It doesn't make a difference. So it's nothing but time. So you have to give yourself the time to sober up before you operate a motor vehicle. And the best way to do that is to be prepared.
Yes.
If you know you're going out, I would never say don't go out and have a good time and a couple of drinks.
That's not the message.
Never.
No.
But have a plan to get home safely.
Yeah. If you know that you're going to go out and have a couple of drinks, first of all, don't bring your vehicle.
Exactly.
Just don't bring that temptation there.
Exactly.
Because your temptation level is going to change.
Well, and then you're worried, I don't want to leave my car in the parking lot. It just becomes a liability, right? So the best thing to do, you go out, you have a good time, and either you have a designated driver, you have someone arranged to pick you up, you get a hotel room and you stay if you're traveling a distance, Uber taxi, Lyft, all these there's all these different options that exist, and they're all safe and they're all responsible choices. And it's all simply a matter of making that decision before you go out.
And they're easy.
And they're easy.
I don't know of too many people that don't have a cell phone.
No, and Uber's an app.
You pick it up, click it. 10 minutes later, you've got a ride home.
And it's reasonable.
But like I said, plan ahead, though. I mean, because people's inhibitions change.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
They've had a few drinks and, you know what, I didn't have as much as I thought. but maybe they still had enough.
Well, that's it. Your judgment's impaired. We talk about impairment. It's your judgment. It's your balance. It's your vision. It's your ability to operate the motor vehicle based on all of those things. So the best thing to do is make your plan ahead of time.
Yeah.
Know how you're going to get home or how you're going to stay. Make that plan ahead of time. Go out, have a good time, and don't endanger yourself or everybody else on the roadway by making that stupid decision when your judgment and your ability to operate that motor vehicle is impaired.
You'd mentioned just a couple minutes ago about some people maybe don't necessarily know their limits.
Yes.
And just of interest, when you hosted, I believe it was called Guess Your BAC, your blood alcohol concentration.
Yes.
I didn't actually, I wasn't able to attend, but I seen some video of it afterwards. Very interesting to note the different sizes of individuals. Whether they were male or female, and we all have a perception. The big burly guy can handle more. So not true.
It's not true at all.
So not true, and that just proved it.
Right. Yeah, and I was there for that event.
Yes.
And it was amazing to watch people who thought, you ask them, what do you think your BAC is? Oh, I'm fine. And yet, they were blowing well over the legal limit. And other people who were at the point, they were messy, right? Couldn't necessarily get around, stumbling, had failed the standardized field sobriety test or performed poorly. And they were well under the legal limit. So that's why when we talk about impaired driving from an alcohol standpoint, there's two separate charges, right? There's the blood concentration, which is what we call the over 80, and then there's impaired. So you can be impaired by alcohol at any level. If you have alcohol in your system and your ability to operate that motor vehicle is impaired, which can be proven by driving behavior or different tests that we may do, physical coordination tests. If you're impaired, it doesn't matter if you're over 80, you're impaired. But then again, you can be over 80, that blood alcohol concentration, without necessarily having seen that impairment. So that's why there's two separate charges, because alcohol does affect everybody differently.
Sure. Yeah, and like I said, that BAC, or check your
Guess
BAC.
your BAC.
Guess your BAC. Yeah, that prove it case point, right? So so how does it work? I think we have a video of the ride truck as it is set up.
Perfect. The
on a
spot check.
roadside.
Okay.
Maybe we could flip over to that. Yeah.
So that's the big truck there. So that will be a bunch of officers set out on the side of the road. That's actually the ride launch last year. You can see the volunteers. Those are members from MAD York Region who came out to assist us with spot checks on that particular occasion. But essentially, ride is a couple different things. So what you're looking at there with the truck is the full ride setup. There'll be cones. There'll be officers who've prepared. That's me.
Yes,
officers who've prepared a safety lane. So that's what you can see there, right? So they're just telling you to come on through. They'll ask you a question about your alcohol consumption, and then you move on. It's a very simple process. The one piece of advice that I would give is don't try to avoid the ride truck.
No.
Just go through the process. It's very quick.
Yes.
And what we're doing is we're screening. We're screening for alcohol consumption, and we're just making sure that everybody out there is safe. And we do that all year round.
Yes.
We do that all year round. The other thing is a mobile ride, which is, you get pulled over, and an officer asks you if you've had anything to drink tonight. So it's not always the truck.
True.
Right? But the truck is a fantastic way to remind people that we're out there.
Absolutely.
So we're very strategic about where we'll do ride with that truck, right? Because we want people to see that set up and say, oh my goodness, the police are out.
Yes.
I'm going to Uber.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with, 50 feet of vehicle that says YRP's in the house.
It's so preventative.
It is.
Right? It's so preventative, and it's from that standpoint, it's so worth it for us to have it out there, because if it stops one person, or if it makes one person think twice about driving, then it's done what it's supposed to have done, right?
And you hit on don't try to avoid it.
Yes.
The thing people need to know is that you're very operational. You're not you don't just have a bunch of officers and cars right around the ride truck. There's more to it than that.
There is, for sure.
They're watching for that guy.
Yep. They are. They are watching for that guy. And quite often our air support is up as well, and they'll be able to identify a vehicle that has made an attempt to evade a ride spot check. So, and a lot of times it's people who just think, oh, there's a crash up ahead. They don't know why vehicles are stopped.
Right.
It's not always somebody that's impaired and trying to evade the spot check. But regardless, the best thing to do is just go through the process. Just go through the process. It's for everyone's benefit. It's all about road safety.
It's all about our own safety. Right?
That's right.
That's all it is.
That's right.
I know we've always welcomed it up here in Georgina. you almost hope that you're the next guy that goes through it. I've never personally been through a ride check.
You haven't?
I have not.
Well, then we need to find you.
We'll need to find
We need to find you.
Yes.
You know what? I have to say, primarily, people are very happy, right? And the officers that are out doing the ride spot checks will always tell me, you know what? People say, thank you for being here. We appreciate that you're here. It's very rare that anyone will complain. And we've actually done spot checks on the side of Highway 48 on a busy summer weekend where, you know, unfortunately, we've backed up traffic a little bit. And people, for the most part, are thankful. They don't mind getting stuck in traffic, knowing that that's why
So you
we're out
actually
there.
don't get the pushback. You get the acceptance from...
It's rare.
It is.
It
That's
is
good.
rare, yeah. Because we do, I mean, we do ride all year round. We are talking about festive ride and the red ribbon season that sort of work together over December and the beginning of January. But we actually do our enhanced ride all year round.
Yes.
So it's a ministry grant.
Wow.
Yeah. So what we'll do is we have our usual road safety enforcement officers out doing ride.
Yeah.
We have district level officers out doing ride.
Right.
And then additionally, we will have a team of officers that comes in with the only purpose is to do ride on a particular night shift. And that is covered by a ministry grant. So they do Super Bowl. I'm not a football fan. I had to think for a second.
Super Bowl.
Super Bowl, Grey Cup, St. Patrick's Day, Canada Day, all those holidays where there's anticipated that people will be out drinking, right? They go out for August long weekend, for September long weekend.
Folks, we're right back after these messages. Welcome back, everyone, as we continue our conversation with Staff Sergeant Sarah Riddell and the RIDE program of York Regional Police. Sarah, it was talking about the RIDE truck. I mean, I love that beast. Now, there's a new one.
There is a new one, yep.
Brand new.
Brand new. So we did purchase a new truck this year. The old one had been around for quite some time.
Oh, yeah.
And it, you know, it was repair after repair after repair because it does go out so often.
It really was dated.
It was.
Did its job, but it was dated.
Right, and so you have to think too. A lot of the times in the winter, these officers are out. It's freezing cold. They're at the side of the. Like, we don't say, oh, it's it's not pleasant. We're not going to go out and do ride tonight. No. They're out regardless of what the weather conditions are. So it's nice to have something that has heat, air conditioning. It's more comfortable for them. Plus, it is a completely self-contained unit for doing breath testing, arrests, and release.
Yes.
So how it would work is if you're at a ride spot check.
Okay.
You pull up, the officer will ask you, have you had any alcohol to drink tonight? So they're doing a screening, a roadside screening. If you reply yes, then the officer has the right at that point in time to ask you to breathe into the approved screening device to determine if the alcohol in your blood is above a legal limit.
Is that what we call the roadside?
A roadside.
Okay.
That's
roadside
correct.
Device? Okay.
Yes, that's the approved screening device. Okay. So if the approved screening device shows that you have, that you fail, then you'll be arrested for over 80 and put up on the truck.
That approved, like that roadside piece, that's more just a pass or a fail. That's not actually measuring?
It's a warn, a pass, and a fail.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's actually the instrument, which is the intoxilizer up on the truck, that will give you the exact concentration.
And that's the next step.
Right. So that would be that full breath test that is then back calculated and able to identify exactly what your what the level of alcohol is in your blood at that, or in your breath, in your blood. Therefore, at that given time. So you go up onto the truck, you're given the opportunity to speak to a lawyer. We have a private soundproof room for duty counsel. Okay. You can speak to your lawyer. Then you'd be doing your 2 breath tests, and we can do the release forms from there. Everything can be done on that truck. So it's fantastic as a tool to reduce the amount of time that it takes to work through that process, and to keep officers and people who have been arrested out of the districts.
Yeah, and it keeps your resources out on the road.
Everything's out on the road.
I'm thinking of the process that it does take to arrest somebody roadside, take them back to the district, get a breath tech up there.
Right.
You're an all-one shop.
Everything's there, and we make sure that we have a breath technician when that truck goes out. We make sure that we have an officer who's trained.
That's somebody that's trained specifically for that.
That's what they do. They do that. They are breath technician trained. It's a week-long course. It's very technical. They are experts. So we make sure we have one of those experts on the truck. We make sure we have an officer who can conduct standardized field sobriety testing on the truck. So it really is a team that is out to eradicate impaired driving and to make the arrests and do the paperwork and go through the process of the investigation all in one place.
All right there on the side
All
of
right
the road.
there. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Very effective, very efficient.
Yeah, and this is something that, as you said, you move it around. You're very strategic in where it goes. You have methods of learning best places to be.
For sure. We have a statistician in the road safety unit who will look and see where are we getting impaired calls for service. So where have we arrested people? Where are the bars or restaurants or locations that unfortunately have overserved? Where is the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario concerned about overservice? And we will go to those locations.
Right. So you're going to have a partnership with the Alcohol and Gaming.
We do.
As well, right?
So when we talk about the fight against impaired driving, we have a lot of partners. Obviously, we have MAD, who advocate for us in many ways. We have the frontline officers at the districts who do ride, mobile. They'll also set up without the truck, but with a lot of cars at the side of the road. We have our road safety enforcement unit. We also really encourage our citizens to call 911.
Yes.
And that is a huge thing for us. So we do get quite a lot of people phoning in, and we encourage, if you spot a suspected impaired driver, it is an emergency in progress. That is a 911 call.
Yes. Yes.
We want you to call. We want you to tell us what it is that you see. And what will happen if you call 911 is you'll have a dispatcher who stays on the phone with you until officers can get to your location.
Right.
And everything is done very safely. They sort of direct you. They ask the information that they need from you. And actually, I have a number here. So this year to date, we've received over 2,800 calls on 911 from people calling about impaired driving. So that's fantastic. That's a really important partnership for us.
It most certainly is. Yeah, I did read earlier on this year that out of the arrests that were made, a significant number of those were from concerned citizens calls.
They are, yes, because we can't be everywhere.
Of course not.
We can't be everywhere, and it's important that we all work together. It's important that we all work together. And on that note, I did bring you something, Don, if you don't mind. So as we talked about how the festive ride over Christmas is in conjunction with MAD Red Ribbon. So to show support, MAD will go out and they'll have red ribbons at liquor stores in different locations. It's the Red Ribbon campaign. So I did bring you one of our red ribbons.
Thank you.
I would love it if you could wear that for us as a show of your support.
I most certainly will.
Of our efforts. So you'll see I wear one here as well.
Yes, I most certainly will. I'll try
Thank
not to
you.
poke myself.
Be very careful.
Be very careful.
As I said earlier, I am first aid trained, so if things go horribly awry, I'm here for you.
Then we're covered?
We're covered.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you. So, and again, that's the importance. It's partnerships. It's being strategic. We really do everything that we can to eradicate impaired driving in York Region.
Yes. And education's a big part of that, right?
Education is a big part of that. Yeah, we do. We'll talk to students in schools. We'll go out to various events. We'll go to like appreciation days, all that kind of stuff. We have the impaired goggles that we'll take out sometimes. They're goggles that you wear, and they're meant to sort of mimic the effects of various levels of impaired based on your blood alcohol concentration. So those are a good way to show people, you focus everything you have on walking a straight line. Okay, so now drive a car, right? And half the people, nobody can walk a straight line. So now consider that you're driving a car, you're operating a motor vehicle, you're trying to figure out where you're going, you're navigating, all those other things. So that's another piece to the puzzle.
Safety messaging. Yeah, that's what it's all about, right? And that's why we bring you on the show.
Exactly.
Is just to try and do our part in getting that messaging out, right?
And I really do appreciate the opportunity that you give to York Regional Police to come out and talk to people, because the message about the morning after and giving yourself time to sober up. Not a lot of people know that, but it's 5 to 10 a.m. we are seeing a lot of impaired driving still happening at that time of day.
It's funny that you say that, because my wife and I have read it in the papers that there was an arrest made at Newmarket at 9 o'clock in the morning. who on earth is drinking at 9 o'clock in the morning? Well, they may not necessarily be consuming at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
Although,
they're still just impaired. They're still over 80 from the night before because they haven't given themselves enough time. So it's always best just to wait and to have another way home. Like you said, don't take the car. Remove the temptation. Don't take the car.
Yeah, I can tell you flat out, you know my wife, there is no temptation. There is one drink, no driving, period. She says, I don't know.
Well, and she's right. You don't know because...
I can't argue with her.
No.
Right? Like
You wouldn't want to.
I would not want to. I would not want to.
Don't do it.
No, so when we talk about RIDE, and obviously you move it around and you utilize support from not just the districts, but perhaps from Air 2 or other bureaus within the agency.
Right.
But each district is also actively doing RIDE.
Yes, for sure.
Daily.
Yeah. We're out all the time, right? Every time you stop a vehicle, you ask for your driver's license, ownership insurance. We now have mandatory alcohol screening, which means that at that point in time, you can ask someone if they've been drinking.
Right.
And then you can screen at that point, so you can do it outside of the RIDE spot check. So, there is a lot of support from the government as well for us in our efforts.
Right. Yeah. No, there definitely is. I mean, one of the things that we were out with the Marine unit a little while ago. And of course, we talk about alcohol out on the water as well.
Yeah, that's impaired.
And it's active.
Yeah.
It's active. There too, a lot of people don't realize that the rules are all the same. You're impaired, you're losing your license, right?
A vessel.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Your vessel could end up on a dry dock.
Yeah.
And apparently they set up on snowmobile trails too, or an access to snowmobile trails. I had no idea.
Yeah, so the way the legislation reads is it's any vessel or motor vehicle. So it could be your snowmobile, it could be your boat, it could be your car or truck, right? For people who are novice drivers, they have to have 0 alcohol in their system. So it's not even a matter of being over 80. Novice drivers, it's a 0. And same with some of the commercial motor vehicle operators as well. Their licensing, that's sort of more cannabis and drugs, but it's 0.
Wow. So they can't have any consumption whatsoever.
No.
So that's with the graduated licensing system?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then when you're talking about the commercial motor vehicles, that's
cannabis.
Okay.
And that's related to their licensing. So we do have the approved drug screening equipment, which is essentially it's kind of like the roadside device for alcohol, but it just doesn't give you a number. It measures for presence or no presence.
So you actually have a device?
We do.
For cannabis?
We do, yes. Yeah, so
I knew there was something coming. I didn't know that you actually had it.
We do. We have a device. It's made by Draeger, and it will give you presence or not presence of the cannabis metabolites. And so for a commercial motor vehicle operator or for a novice driver who are told that you have to have 0 in your system, that for us is a fantastic way to determine whether or not they're complying with their licensing regulation.
Oh, wow. No, I didn't realize that. And then I guess the rest of it is quite simply the roadside sobriety testing, right?
Yes, the standardized field sobriety testing. So again, that's about impaired.
Right.
Is your ability to operate that motor vehicle impaired by alcohol or drug?
Yes.
And if you don't have the roadside equipment that will help, then we do have like you said, the standardized field sobriety test, which will show if your ability is impaired. So that is like a stand and turn. It's those divided attention tasks, those coordination tasks that people have a difficult time doing and doing successfully when they are impaired.
Yeah, and that's been a big conversation over the last year or so, of course, with the change in legislation and the legalizing of cannabis. But one of the misnomers about it was people, for some reason, felt that it was still okay to have cannabis and drive. It is not the case.
No, well, it's all about your levels of impairment, right?
Yeah.
And it's about how much is in your system as well. So there are some what they call a per se limit in the criminal code.
Yeah.
But again, I tell everyone it comes down to impairment. So we talk about cannabis and we talk about marijuana, but then you know what? Cold medication, sleeping pills. There's so many different impairing drugs or substances that it's really about your ability to drive based on what you have on board at the time. Some people are too tired to drive. I mean, these things all impact your ability. And so that's what I just want people to really think about, whether or not they're safe behind the wheel at any given time.
Yeah, no, we don't want any unsafe drivers
Exactly.
at any capacity at any time.
Exactly.
And I want to go back to, because it's just an important message, I want to go back to calling 911.
Yes.
You say it is an emergency in progress.
Yes, it is.
It's one of the few times that if you needed to, you could use your cell phone while
You
you're
can.
driving.
Yes. Yep.
We're not encouraging people to use their cell phones
No.
in other times, but
No.
just be aware that you will not receive a ticket for using your cell
No,
phone.
the Highway Traffic Act allows for people, anyone,
Yes.
to make an emergency call with their cell phone while they're operating their vehicle. So again, don't be afraid. Call 911.
Yes.
If you suspect, you don't have to know for sure. You don't have to see that person drinking in the car. If you suspect, based on the driving behavior or something that you've seen, that that person is impaired, we want you to call us. Let us come out and make that determination. Let us stop that car. You know, maybe they're just tired.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something else going on.
Yeah.
But regardless, there's enough of a concern for you to call.
You're still not, you're
Then
not
it's an
going to get in
issue.
trouble for calling.
You are not going to get in trouble
Sarah,
for calling.
thanks so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you, Don.
Folks, that wraps up this episode of Policing York Region. Been great having you. Look forward to seeing you again.